All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the interview with Declan Casey. I am Brent Earlywine. We are going to have a great discussion today. This is really an interview with Declan. He's been kind enough to set aside some time for us. A bunch of topics, one for myself, as well as I think of interest for other people to kind of talk with somebody that's I'll label you as a master craftsman. I think that's a well-deserved title based on the quality of the work that I've seen you do. I don't know if you use that title, but I'll use it for you if that's all right.
No problem. No problem.
All right, perfect. So just real quick agenda today, nice and simple. Do some fast intros on myself and Declan. I've got a list of about 9 or 10 questions that I think are some pretty good topics that everybody is interested in. So we'll go through that. And then as we go through, we can't hear you or see you, but if you've got a question, just post it in the chat. And then at the end, I'll read through. And if we have some time, we'll answer those questions. If we run out of time, what I'll do is I'll post those questions to Declan, and we can follow up with an email and send it out to everybody that registered. And then, of course, as a registrant, you'll get an access to the replay as well. And then I'll spend a second or two at the end talking about an event I've got planned coming up in March of 2024, which I'm very excited about. I think is going to be a blast. For those of you that don't know about it, you get a chance to see it, and then I'll send you to a link. You can get a lot of detailed information about it. So with that, we've got a pretty good group. There's still folks streaming in, so as they come in, you can listen in. But let's go ahead and get started. So I'll introduce myself, and then Declan, I'll ask you to do the same thing if you don't mind, just nice and simple. So Brent Earlywine, I'm founder and lead instructor of the Combat Shillelagh system. I've been in martial arts for 36 years and counting, and I put together what I'd label as a modern day interpretation of utilizing the Shillelagh cudgel, blade and staff system, but focus specifically on the Shillelagh. So I own and run a full-time dojo here in Pittsburgh, our main training hall. I'm actually celebrating 25 years of doing that this year. Very excited about that. But back in 2016, I started to codify the idea of this kind of system. So I'm not a traditional lineage holder in Irish stick fighting. This is a modern day interpretation, if you will. I've always been very clear about that, but certainly enjoy. And along the way, we've got students in 36 states in the United States and 21 countries. It's grown pretty fast, pretty large, and I've a little bit of humbleness on seeing that engagement around the world. So, Declan, if you don't mind, just a quick introduction on who you are and your company, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Brent. I'm Declan Casey. Casey's Blackthorn, Ireland, and I took on the business after my father passed away. And I've been doing it ever since. And it was great to continue it on. He taught me so much when he was doing it himself back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And it's a great business to be involved in. That you talk to so many people around the world, and there's always somebody looking for something related to Blackthorn Shillelaghs, which is great as a business. It's always something to do in the business. It's a very hard business, but it's worthwhile doing it and carrying it on.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of dovetails into really the first topic or question I had around you, Declan, is, I understand, you started, your dad was doing it. Now you're doing it. I don't know if anybody else in your extended family is either doing it with you or even somebody as, father, grandfather, aunts, uncles, what have you. But I'd be curious to see and hear how your father got started, and your decision to continue this. I'm assuming you do this full time, which is probably a second question buried in there. I don't know if that's accurate or not. But
yes, it's full time. It's full time now for a good few years.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough that it did get to that. I didn't know if it would, because it's a 7-day-a-week job.
Yep.
But I had an uncle, all right. He used to cut blackthorn for my father, because my father had a day job as well. So he did it, and one of my brothers did a little cutting as well back in the 80s.
Yeah. So how'd your dad get started? It was something he just was doing as like a side business to supplement income, or was there a particular reason that he was starting to do that? How'd he get started in it?
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of a side interest at the start, back in the late 60s, early 70s. He worked in a place called Mail Order in Shannon Airport.
Okay.
So they were a mail order business. So they had all the crafts that were worth selling in Ireland in one catalogue.
Okay.
So it was great that way, that you would just get your catalogue and pick out what you would like, and it was shipped out worldwide. And he was involved in that at the top end, in organising the photos and the buyers, the people, that the crafters, and all the behind the scenes of it. And then he started supplying the Blackthorn Shillelagh walking sticks for it. So the demand was fairly high on it. So that's where it really took off, that he had to harvest X amount every year to keep the business going with them.
It's interesting. So I mean, I'm kind of parsing what I heard. So it sounds like maybe he was doing that, and it was being sold outside of Ireland, right? So catalog, people were buying it and shipping.
Yes, it would be all exported.
Yeah. Okay. How much of the business is internal, inside of Ireland, or was it for your dad and or for you?
No, very little in Ireland. It was all mainly mail order. We used to sell around 3,000 per year.
Oh, that's
which
a
was a
pretty
lot.
significant amount. Yeah.
It was a lot. We stored them in the attic. I remember going up to the attic when I was a young fella, and I'd be pulling them up, putting them away to season them in bundles of 25.
Yeah.
Which was fairly heavy, But it was, and back then you only harvest on a Sunday.
Okay.
Because the farmers would be after you. But on a Sunday they go to mass, and then they go to the pub. So you'd have free roads. You wouldn't have anybody to bother you, which was great,
Nobody running you off because they were busy.
No, yeah. Well, we had one or two incidents with shotguns pulled on us and things like that when we were in land, But other than that, no.
So how early did you start with helping out your dad?
As far as back I can remember, 7 or 8, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah. Young boy.
Yeah, clipping the sticks. See, back then there was no hedge cutters. There was no real restriction on hedges, so they were fairly intense.
Okay.
So there was a lot of clipping when the sticks would be pulled out of the hedges. There'd be a lot of clipping, cutting down to size and put them in the boot. Because the more you clip down to size, the more you got in. Because you'd be hoping to bring home between 1 and 200.
Okay.
Every time you went out, So there was a bit of cleaning them up, and that was my first job.
Okay. Got it. And I saw some photos as well where you're talking about shaping or cutting off the thorns. So it sounds like you were doing a little bit of that when you first were harvesting to get it into the back of the car, right? I know you say the boot, we say the trunk here in the
yes
States.
Yes.
Yeah. And then also maybe once you get back to the house and the workshop, right? Again, kind of cleaning them up for your dad.
Yes, and you tie them in bundles then, and you put them into the attic, and they'd stay there for 2 years.
Okay.
For seasoning,
Yeah, and I have a question a little bit further into today's session, specifically about kind of what's that process look like. We certainly hear kind of the traditions. Don't know if that's accurate or not on how things were seasoned, but I'll pick your brain on that here in a little bit. So as it sits right now, do you have kids of your own? Anybody else in your immediate family that help you with the current business?
Yeah, my wife is good help. She comes out with me every time, nearly every time I go out.
Okay.
She does a bit of clipping the sticks and gets them into the car. My kids that I have here at home at the moment, they're young. They're only 12 and 14.
Okay.
So they are too busy That's cool.
Yeah, I've got four kids of my own. Although my kids are a little older now, I've got a range from my youngest is 18 and my oldest is 29. So they're out of the house. Some of them out of the house through college. I got two more to finish with college. But yeah, I hear you. At 10, 11, 12 years old, they were a little focused on school and their phone
Yes,
versus helping dad.
yes, yes.
All right. Well, we'll go to the next topic. So folks, I think a statement and a question at the same time. People think of Ireland, they think of, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, I'm sure, but they equate the shillelagh with Ireland. But I don't know that people outside of Ireland or don't have exposure to it as a cultural item really have a good idea on kind of the history that's attached to it, right? So
Yeah,
studying and trying to teach modern day Irish stick fighting, I certainly have done a lot of research and hear about things like faction fights and other things that are attached to it. But I'd say that most people really don't understand, what's attached to the idea of a shillelagh. So everything from, I'm just using it as, a walking stick support to people that were involved with or are part of the faction fights historically. So anything you want to are able to share there just on kind of the histories and traditions attached to the shillelaghs?
yeah. The faction fighting, I wouldn't be very open. A lot of that would be up in the air. Did these things really happen in the volume that's wrote about it?
Yep.
But I think that the Shillelagh really took off in the last 80 to 100 years, especially when immigration from Ireland
Right.
started around the famine time, and after that, Irish people brought Blackthorn sticks with them as protection.
Right.
Because a lot of people, as you know, back in the late 1800s, 1900s, they carried sticks for protection or wild dogs or whatever, to look after themselves. So a lot of Irish did bring them to America with them as protection. But I think it really took off with situations like The Quiet Man. The film The Quiet Man was a Blackthorn stick in that.
Yeah. Right.
JFK was presented one in the early 60s when he came to Ireland. So it really started. They started writing, looking for shillelaghs then. They weren't looking for shillelaghs pre the 40s.
Yeah.
It was as I said about mail order. Mail order was the only mail order catalogue in Ireland that you could get shillelaghs. That'd be the short one that we used to hang up on the wall,
Right.
as a souvenir. The old style, with the bulbous head on it,
Right.
or the Blackthorn walking stick. So the Quiet Man was a big promoter of the shillelagh. It made it very popular as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a couple of interesting things buried inside of that. I mean, I'd make an observation that there's definitely a cultural kind of reference, and I do think that took off, 40s, 50s, 60s, where people
Yes.
started to associate it. I'm of Irish descent myself. My grandmother's family came over from Ireland. She was a Duff. And then even if you go into, Irish pubs here in the States today, it's if they're a traditional pub or run by
Yes.
Irish descent or Irish family, you'll see shillelagh, up on the wall behind the bar kind of idea as a, personal protection,
Yeah.
item, right? Or the other way people using it for a walking aid. But then you see it a lot in groups or parades where people are using it, almost as a, I don't even know what the right term would be, but someone that's like a band director would use a shillelagh.
Yes, I have crafted some shillelaghs like that for big bands in parading, especially on Paddy's Day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that I think people are searching for some sort of authentic connection to maybe their heritage. So if
Yes.
they're of Irish descent, I would assume that was probably behind a lot of the catalog type sales. And even today, I get that a lot where people are looking for, hey, I want to buy one for my grandfather, or I'm of Irish descent, and I want to have one as a family heirloom, and I want to have my name
Yes.
on it, kind of thing, right? So I see that personally at a much smaller scale, I think, than maybe you do.
Yeah, that's why I like to bring it a bit above that. That's why I put the shamrock on it and engravings and try to make it a little bit more attractive than just the old way,
Sure.
the old look, you know. And people really like that, and they appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a couple that you've done maybe a sidebar discussion where you've even done some of the inlays with
Yes.
other materials where really some gorgeous, gorgeous work. I've always appreciated it when I see the photos of it. I haven't purchased one that's got inlays yet from you, but I might do one for myself.
There is a bit of work in them, but they're worth doing, and I like doing that kind of work. It makes me stand out from the DIY guy.
Yeah,
You
and maybe, and I have a question later about what we should look for in terms of quality and authentic source. But I think there's also a lot of kind of garbage out there. Maybe not the guys that are
Correct.
doing it as a hobby, but there's a lot of kind of tourist garbage that people will label as an authentic shillelagh. And I think there's a bunch of junk that somebody can spend money on versus sourcing from a trusted supplier is how I would describe it.
Yeah, we're having a problem in Ireland as well with buying in sticks and reselling out as an Irish product.
Yeah.
We're having that problem as well, you know, but there's not a lot you can do about it. And especially when they're not even Blackthorn, and they're being relayed as being Blackthorn.
Right.
But what can you do? There's nothing you can really do about that, you know.
No, I mean, I think the only thing we can all try to do is through education and identifying, like I said, I use the term a trusted source where you're getting something that's not only, from Ireland, but a traditional maker.
At least it's crafted in Ireland. That's number one. If you get to that base, it's crafted and it's grown. The Blackthorn is grown in Ireland, or the hazel is grown in Ireland.
Yep.
It's crafted in Ireland. Then it's you can't get much more authentic than that.
That's right. Yep, absolutely. All right, so I guess that'll lead us to my next question I have, and I love this photo you posted in one of the Facebook groups, and I grabbed it, which is, where and how do you harvest the blackthorn? I know it's a hedge, right? So it grows all over the place in Ireland. We actually don't have blackthorn here in the States. We have similar plants that are of the same family, but not exactly blackthorn. So, where and how do you find this, right? Do you have agreements with farmers and people that are landowners? Is this something that, you're finding growing up along the streets? Or let me know where you find it.
I have arrangements with some farmers around the area where I live here in Ballinacally, but that wouldn't be enough. I have to branch out and go to different parts of the county,
right,
even into Galway, Tipperary, and Limerick. So you can't really get permission everywhere you go because that would be virtually impossible.
Yep.
The harvesting is number one. If you can't harvest good quality Irish blackthorn, you don't have a good quality Irish product.
Yep.
And that's number one. And that's the thing about people buying in stuff that's not Irish. You're not having that good quality product. And if you can get the raw material, the good raw material, it's not that hard to produce the good sticks then, But it is getting harder every year to find good quality blackthorn. But I'm lucky enough that I do write in. I have a journal. I write in the areas every year where I go. Where probably if young sticks are coming, I don't cut them. I leave them until next year.
Right.
Because it's no good cutting something that's going to be too light. You'll only end up throwing it away or whatever with it. So you have to know. You have to know the size that will end up being usable. A lot of guys cut it too light, and then by the time it shrinks after seasoning, it's no good to them.
Yeah, it's not the right size.
You ruin a lot of good material that way. But I do a lot of traveling around, seeking good quality blackthorn, but I try only cut the best quality.
Yeah, that's logical. Are you running into any challenges, with development and people building houses and shopping centers that, some of the kind of quote unquote natural habitats starting to shrink?
Yeah, with the house building, yes, especially in rural Ireland, it's really branching out. But the hedge cutting is the worst. They cut the hedges right down to nothing,
Yeah,
and then it takes so many years for them to grow up, and a lot of the time they don't give it enough time to reproduce again.
right,
So you're really being pushed out and pushed out to the limits of where you are. You're really going out into, as we call it, the back of nowhere, where these guys aren't. So that's why you do so much traveling. And as you can see in the picture there, that's only a little boring. There's grass in the middle of the road.
right.
It's very narrow. It's only room for one car. So you're talking about areas like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like there's Blackthorn farms.
No, 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 no.
Makes sense. All right. Awesome. And then, I think, and I referenced this earlier, there's, stories about what's the process, how long does it take, people, and I don't know that this is accurate in any way, shape or form, but, I've heard stories about, traditionally, rub it in butter and then put it up inside the chimney for it to season.
No.
Yeah, I know there's a seasoning process, but just give us a feel for, an overview. What is the process, right? How long does it take? I know it has to season for a certain amount of time to kind of cure and dry out the wood so you don't have it crack later down the road. But give us an idea of what does it actually look like?
First of all, when you go out and you harvest, you bring them home, you tidy them up, as I say, but you have to leave X amount on the head for crack. For cracking, if you cut the head too tight, too short,
Right.
there's better chance of a cracking. So at the ends, then when you leave the proper end, at the ends you'll have to seal it with some kind of a sealer.
Okay.
Let it be a sanding sealer, or some people use a paint, wood glue, things like that. That will help us stop it cracking. Then you have to season it in for a couple of years. That's depending on the size. If the head is 4 or 5 inches in depth, that's going to take 4 or 5 years to season.
Okay. So bigger
it's
than
an inch.
It takes.
Yeah, it's an inch per year, really.
Okay. Is there a minimum? I mean, I've heard, the 2 to 3 year kind of average. Is there if you try to do it too soon, you run into problems?
You can, yes. Cracking is a big problem if you do that too soon.
Yep.
Green. If you see somebody that's working on a stick too soon, you can often see green little marks.
Yeah.
On the bark, because seasoned blackthorn will be more brown. It'll go brown.
Okay.
Because bark is green, as you know. So
Yep.
Once it's seasoned, the bark will go brown.
Brown. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I should have asked you this on probably the last slide, but is there I think I heard you reference recently, like now is the cutting season. So a certain time of year is when you actually cut it versus the rest of the year.
Yeah, the 1st of November, I usually start when
Okay.
when I know the sap is down. And as well as that, I've heard there recently of some guys on Facebook, and they said last month they were out cutting last month or looking for them. But the only problem with in November is that the leaves are still on the bushes, so you won't see them.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to see a blackthorn when the leaves are on it, because the leaf is so dense. So the leaves have to be totally gone before you can actually see them in the bush.
Yeah, I would imagine not just see it in the bush, but also maybe see what's the, you referenced earlier, like the right kind of size and thickness.
Yes.
Not too thin. And then as well as.
Correct. And it's dangerous as well when the sap is up. You can get a bad poisoning, a worse poisoning from them with more sap in them.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. I see you with kind of protective gloves and clothing. I don't think it's an easy process to cut it either, right? It kind of fights back.
It can, and it can bite back too. Yeah, I use welder's gloves. I find them very good.
Okay.
You would not be able to cut them without gloves. Like that's a guarantee. You would not be able to cut them, or a very light glove. I see some guys in the pictures of themselves cutting with these light little gloves. They're looking for trouble. They're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
Even though when we were young, we didn't wear any eye protection. The gloves were, they weren't the best. But I don't know. We just didn't think about getting hurt. So thank God it didn't happen.
Yeah, we get smarter as we get older.
Yeah, I think if you think about it too much, you'll probably end up getting hurt.
Yeah, yeah. And then when you go to finish the stick, so let's say they've seasoned 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, depending on the thickness of the head. And I've seen, and one of the other slides here, I have pictures of examples of different finishes, but I see really they fall into, it looks like kind of two versions. I'll just label it as kind of the black finish that I think most people think of as, kind of the traditional, and then more of a natural finish where it's the brown of the bark. But, I also see like a high gloss version. I see a more kind of matte finish. So any kind of high level views on, either the differences as well as, how you do those different kinds of finishes.
Yeah, a lot of people say they come on and they say, I love the natural finish.
Yep.
That's okay if the bark is very, very good. Most times the bark doesn't be that good. So if you do a natural finish, you're going to see a lot of blemishes.
Okay.
And it doesn't look that attractive when it's finished. Because the guys will always show you the one that looks good, but not the one that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
If you analyze some guys that are selling online, you will see a lot of blemishes on the natural finish. But there is natural extracts that you can help it to blend in, to make it look more attractive. That's what it's all about, is to make it look attractive and to dress it up as well as you can. I do leave a lot of my Blackthorn in a natural finish if they will look well left like that. But my father used to always say Blackthorn should be black. It's the traditional way. So that's why I do a lot of them in a dark finish. None of my sticks at the moment are black. They're finished in a darker finish, but they're not black. You can actually see the bark.
Yeah. I've purchased multiple ones from you, Declan, both for myself as well as for my students and folks that are interested in authentic source. And if I look at the pictures across the bottom of this slide, typically that second one in from the left is what people think of. And you're right, the ones I've gotten from you are not completely black. They're really dark, but it's dark. Not black.
Correct.
And then I've certainly gotten some, what I would label as a natural finish, some more of that kind of matte finish, not as glossy and more of the brown. But then it's interesting. I grabbed two other images, far left, which I think you label as your Banshee product, which is gorgeous.
Yes.
Right. And then the one on the far right, which I think was maybe one of your father's. I think it referenced, you had it in a Facebook post somewhere that was an older version, which almost looked like an oil rubbed kind of different finish. And I don't know if that's from time or it was a different kind of finish for that.
The one on the right.
Yeah, the far right. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually went to Australia.
Okay.
I remember that well. No, that's, as far as I remember, that's a satin finish, not gloss. That's why it gives it more an older look.
Yeah.
Some guys like the matte or the satin finish. It gives it more a different. As you can see there, the two on the right are flat finishes. The two on the left are more gloss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it all depends on the customer, what he prefers. He get.
Is there is it just like an aesthetic preference, or is there a different like usage and application? Now, people that are buying this may have it as, a decorative piece, right? They're going to hang it up on a wall. Some people will buy it for practical purposes, like I want to walk with it, right? It's a walking stick, or
Yes.
like a cane. And then for myself, I own in my training hall, I've got probably, I'm starting to lose count, 30 or 40 shillelaghs of all different sizes and shapes and finishes. But I use them in class, right? So we're actually hitting with them and using them, right? So I have
Correct. Yes.
lean towards the matte finish for those kind of applications. So the question then is, the different finishes and types, do they really have a different application, or it's really just personal preference?
Yeah, personal preference. A lot of people like the dark shine.
Yeah.
For actually stick fighting and contact, you're better off with oils or an oil-based varnish, because it won't mark as easily as varnish would.
Sure.
But all them sticks are usable for walking.
Yep.
That's the whole purpose of the ones there in the photos anyway. The four there, they're all for walking. So it doesn't matter if they're glass finish or oil finish. It's preference. A lot of people get bogged down with boiled inside oil or some kind of oil. Oil is okay, but varnish is excellent as well.
Yep.
It's only a preference. That's all. I'm probably very well known for that high gloss finish, that you can really see yourself in it. It's not that easy to get that looking like that, but I'm at it so long now that I've kind of developed getting it really nice and like mirror-like.
Sure.
So some of the customers like that,
Yeah, I mean, I will say again, kind of on a personal level, the ones that I've purchased from you that are that high gloss, I mean, they're gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. I can't think of another word for it. Not only in just the finish of it, it's very, very polished, and I don't mean that like physically polished. Like you can tell that there's a lot of time and effort put into it. And they really stand out in my mind as kind of works of art. Some of them that I own from you that I don't use them to, bang sticks and have some fun, because I don't want them to get messed up. They're like a work of art. I don't want to mess with them. But I was just kind of curious, and I appreciate you answering the question. I like all the above. And then of course, I've purchased from you, Declan, I've gotten the 50-inch, really long ones. And then I've done what I would label in my head, and I think that's one of my other slides and questions, is that right around 36 inches, that 3 feet long. And then I've also purchased cudgel length, like that 18 to 20 inch lengths as well. So I've had an opportunity to purchase all the above from you, and I've enjoyed every single one of them. And that leads me to really the next question. So maybe confusion for folks either outside of Ireland, or maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. That might be part of the question. But we'll hear terms. We'll hear shillelagh. We'll hear blackthorn walking stick. We'll hear cudgel, and we'll hear folks kind of use all the above interchangeably. Is there really a quote unquote standard size or a standard term for any of the different terms that we're hearing?
There is. The different lengths is very important, especially for the buyer. If they're looking for a staff length, I always kind of suggest kind of your forearm if it's horizontal, and that's where you would grip it.
Okay.
And the head then would be above that.
Yep.
I always find that the best to use as a staff, because you can lean on it better and it can give you better support. If it's too tall, I find you're falling over it. If it's too short, you're falling out over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's nice to get that in between, nice secure feel to it, and I find that's the best length for hiking staffs anyway.
Yep.
And then your standard walking stick is measured from the wrist to the ground, of course, wearing footwear.
Sure.
That's the best way to measure for because some people say twice your height, or sorry, half your height.
Half your height, yeah.
And some other people say something else and add on an inch for shoe wear. But the only problem there is not everybody's arms are the same length.
Yeah.
So if you've got long arms, you're gonna you're gonna have problems. Or if you have short arms, you're gonna have a problem as well. So the
Yeah.
best way to measure is from your wrist down, then you won't have a problem.
It's interesting. So, I said earlier that I've studied and continue to study martial arts. I'm in year number 36 and counting. And some of what I've studied has been traditional Japanese sword schools and systems. And there's a very specific process if you're having a sword made for you on how you measure it. And one of the ways that they say if you hold the sword in your right hand with a proper grip, and hang it down next to you on your side, the tip should just clear the ground without making contact. So again, it's a way to kind of use your own body as a reference point for a proper length.
Correct.
So
You have to use your own body. Yes.
yeah,
Correct. Yeah. So there's no really good way to measure, especially for a walking stick size, only to measure from the wrist down. And even at that, you might be an inch either way, you know?
yeah. Inexact science.
Yes, because some people like it to be more over the stick and other people like to be more back from the stick.
Yeah,
If that makes sense when you're walking.
Yep. All right. And I know there's some questions coming in the chat. We'll get to that, folks, towards the end. I just want to make sure we get through some of the topics we have with Declan today. So we've been talking a lot about Blackthorn, obviously. And again, statement and question, my assumption is that, traditionally it would be Blackthorn, although I know there are other woods that people are making sticks out of.
Yes.
Both, historically as well as modern. So I've seen hazel, I've seen whitethorn, I've heard and seen oak. So is there a traditional wood? Is Blackthorn always kind of the default, or were there times and periods when other woods might be used? Or obviously in modern day times, we're seeing other woods being used as well.
Yeah, oak I think was really the original, because Ireland was so covered in oak trees. So, and it was easier cut and manage and use compared to Blackthorn, because going into Blackthorn hedge, especially way back then, wasn't an easy task.
Right.
Because there was no gloves involved. You had only primitive tools. So the oak tree was probably the best option to make a stick out of for fighting or for protection or walking or whatever. But it's in the last about 150 years, I'd say, Blackthorn became very popular because it's a nicer wood to work with, especially for walking sticks, because it's more straight and it's a bit more flexible. Oak is very stiff. Oak isn't a very nice wood to deal with to make walking sticks. It's okay for short shillelaghs because you get a nice long head in it and to hang up on the wall. But as for because back in the 70s, we used to use a lot of oak for the short shillelaghs, oak, birch, all the hard wood, because they were easier access to them compared to trying to make shillelaghs, the short shillelagh, out of Blackthorn was a lot harder to source it. But yeah, oak was very popular, but the Blackthorn really took over because of obvious reasons, being very straight, looked better, especially when it was blackened and you had a nice, rich coloured head, which oak doesn't have. Oak is a very bland looking timber. So I think that's why Blackthorn really took over,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting that, for kind of the martial aspect, the Blackthorn I've found, even in my own personal experience, has some really interesting kind of properties. There's a strength to it, and you mentioned flexibility. I'd use the term, there's a springiness to
yes,
it, right? So
correct.
It's this interesting kind of collection of properties that I really have not seen in my own personal journeys through, martial arts. A lot of the training weapons that I've been exposed to, a lot of oak, a lot of ash, where they're very strong, very firm, very stiff, and they hold up really well. You can beat them up, is what I would say.
Yeah, hazel would be the same. Hazel is very stiff. There's no real flexibility in hazel either, but a great stick for fighting.
Yeah.
Because it's light and strong. Very, very good for stick fighting.
Yeah, the oak, when it gets older, it lightens and gets brittle, but it can be heavy, right? From a
Yeah, oak's too heavy for that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
in my opinion.
The blackthorn has been this interesting, and I've seen it now over, and I'm at 5-6 years and counting, and actually using it all the time. It's a really unique, and the springiness I don't see in other kinds of wood, so it's definitely
Yes, yes.
all right. And I think we actually kind of answered this one, which is how do we measure the right size for an individual? So I think we can probably move on. There was a question in the chat that we touched on, but I don't know that we answered, which is how long does it take for blackthorn to mature enough for use or get to the right size? So as you're looking at the hedges,
Oh,
from
yes.
brand new
Yeah,
to when you would cut it, how long does that take?
it can vary, depends on the areas. Some areas grow a bit quicker than others, but on average, you're talking 8 to 10 years.
Okay. That's a little bit
To
longer
get
than
to
than I
get to
thought.
this size here, see the stick on the photo?
Yep.
8 to 10 years, I'd say, for that size.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I figured it would have been a little bit faster growing. So that's a pretty significant amount of time to get to the right size.
Yeah, it's a long time waiting for one to get there.
Yeah. Well, like to your point earlier, you're right, taking notes on, all right, it's not ready yet. I'll come back next year, right? Give it enough time to get to the
Yes,
right
all right,
size.
all right. I might put down 2 years' time
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
3 years' time. It's not all going to be next year, because you can think it's going to be ready for you next year, and you go back and it still hasn't grown enough.
Yeah. Not there yet. So, let's say, myself or somebody else, we've invested, a chunk of money into a gorgeous piece of art, Blackthorn Shillelagh.
Yeah.
How do we take care of it, right? So I know, and again, I'll make a statement. Part of the question inside of my dojo and training hall, I have a bunch of oak training weapons. We use boiled linseed oil or tung oil, and then about twice a year, we'll give them a good coat because the wood will get dry and brittle, and the oil re-moisturizes it. So what kind of care do we need to do with a traditional blackthorn shillelagh to make sure that it lasts for a long time?
Well, I don't use boiled linseed oil because I find it takes way too long to dry.
Okay.
It's overrated in my opinion. I like true oil.
Okay.
True oil has a lovely texture. It really enhances blackthorn in its tones, the colors, and really comes out well with it. And it dries quicker. And it's a good tough oil. I think they use it on gun stocks.
Okay.
So it's a good tough oil, very 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 good to dry, and it's hard to go beyond that. If you're looking to maintain it, you can easily just give it a light sand, a year or two down, give it another coat, and it's like new again.
Okay.
If it's varnished, it's a little different. You can do the same thing if you like. Give it a light sand and give it another coat of the same type of varnish, same type of finish. Or you can put on a matte finish or satin. Or you can actually just give it a rub of just ordinary furniture polish. That'll enhance it, bring it up as well if it's just a little scuffed, just that it's not gone too far.
Yeah. Pretty low key from a maintenance perspective.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Although I have a different problem because I have some the high varnish versions where basically hitting sticks together, we chip off some of the bark and the varnish where I've got stuff that's come off of it. That's probably a different problem.
Yeah, you'll have to go sanding a bit deeper.
We'll save that topic for another day. So we touched on this a little bit, Declan, but if, like I said, I think there's a lot of unfortunate, kind of junk out there that people can spend money on, and it's not worth it, right? So, people go to Amazon and, they see something that's listed as a blackthorn shillelagh, and it's probably not. And it's not, real blackthorn. It's not sourced or crafted in Ireland. But, what are the things we really should be looking for if we're going to purchase one that's authentic?
Okay.
I will say, obviously a trusted source. I think that's an easy
Very
one.
good question. Yeah.
But what else should we be looking for?
First of all, it helps if it's grown in Ireland.
Yeah.
And if it's cut and seasoned in Ireland, because the person that does all the cutting and whatever will know exactly what they have.
Yeah.
Because you can buy products off other guys. You don't know when it was cut.
Yep.
Really, some guys be looking at it, is it Blackthorn, is it not Blackthorn? You know? But the authentic, I get that a lot. What's authentic? Authentic is it's grown in Ireland, number one. It's cut and seasoned and crafted in Ireland.
Yeah.
If it's Blackthorn, it's going to be a Blackthorn Shillelagh. If it's if it's oak, it's going to be an oak Shillelagh.
Right.
That's your once it's grown and crafted in Ireland, it's an authentic Irish Shillelagh. And there's no other way of looking at it, really. You know, if you buy something from Japan,
Yep.
a Nike product from Japan, how authentic is it? You know, most guys are looking for stuff that's made in America,
Right.
because it's Nike. You know, the product from America, if it's an American company, an American product, holds a lot more value if it comes from the source of the country, you know.
Yeah, completely agreed. I mean, and again, my own kind of piece of the world. You know, I've dealt with you, and I've dealt with another shillelagh maker, but on purpose, it's been very specific because I want to make sure if somebody tries to source through and with me that they're getting the real deal. They're not getting something that is a piece of tourist junk, or it wasn't sourced and crafted in Ireland. They may be a little more expensive, but one, they're going to be authentic, two, made to a higher quality standard. And three, they're going to last a heck of a lot longer too. And one of the other pictures I referenced earlier that, early on, I purchased a couple of things that were questionable. And, once they show up, they're not very well made. I can't tell you, the provenance of what the wood is, because I don't know. And it was a waste of money. And now they sit in the corner, and, I mistreat them because I know they're a piece of junk. But in the meantime, I got smarter in making sure that, okay, if we're going to purchase something, it's going to come from Declan, somebody like you or one of your peers that I purchased from as well, that I know it's a trusted source. I know it's quality material, and I know it's coming from somebody that's been doing this for quite some time.
Yeah, there is a lot to it, even sourcing the proper quality of Blackthorn. It's all about shaping the head for the fit, especially walking sticks now I'm talking about, to fit properly in the hand, comfortable, that you can use it as a walking stick. I see a lot of sticks that good quality looking Blackthorn, but the head is just shaped wrong.
Yeah.
It's not shaped right because I know the very minute I look at it, if it's going to be comfortable in the hand. You can see the two Banshee there, Shillellaghs, by looking at them, they're going to be comfortable to hold.
Right.
By looking at them. They're sitting back. They're sitting back on the head. So you're going to be directly in over the stick, and it's going to be nice and comfortable in your hand.
Yeah, before we started, I think you had a shillelagh from your father that the style kind of changed over the years, right? So more of the squared off head versus the rounded heads.
Yeah, you can see how square that is.
Yep.
And it's got bowed here from age. A bow has come in it.
Yep.
But I've left that. I haven't straightened it again. I just left it as it aged. It just got a little bit bowed. It's back in the, I'd say, late 80s stick,
Yep.
So it's around warm houses a while,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I happen to. I really like the rounded ends. Very comfortable in the hand. I'll use the term when I do training in some of the Japanese stuff. We'll use the term indexing, so it's easy to index. So if you think of a sword, for example, it's got an edge on one side, so the handles are shaped a specific way. So you index, so you know where the edge is.
Yes.
So and these two examples here with the Banshee examples. That head is kind of offset, so it's easy to index, and you understand where the shaft of the shillelagh is.
Yeah,
that's logical, right?
And it's the head is they're nice to walk with because you're directly over the stick.
Right.
You're in control of the stick when you're walking.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think it makes even more sense when you have it in your hand. It feels very, very natural.
Correct.
Yeah, so we're getting close to the end. We're down to about the last 10 minutes. And Declan, I guess my last question for you, formal question for me anyways, is there anything else that you want to share either on history or traditions or anything else to do with the shillelagh?
Um, we went through a fair bit.
We have.
I don't. If anybody's looking for a good um, traditional looking shillelagh, you really have to get it from Ireland,
Yeah.
and a guy that you know that he cut it, seasoned it, and did all the work to it. But if you look carefully at some of them, they have to be sanded between the torn notches. You have to sand them proper
Yeah.
to get this, because there is a very rough bark on Blackthorn. So that roughness has to come out, and then it'll highlight the torn notch bumps a lot better, and they stand out better. And when they're either just left in a natural finish, or darkened, or even blackened, they stand out better. It looks better. Even when you feel it, it feels better. It's all about doing a lot more work on them to make them better, which very few people actually do. That type of work on them. They just slap on a bit of lipstick and off you go,
Yeah, I mean, I'll use the term, fit and finish. And again, I'd
Yeah,
say as I've seen, even the ones that I've owned from multiple suppliers, you can tell where somebody's put the effort in to have that, really good.
yeah, correct. Even straightening.
Yeah.
There's an art even in straightening. It takes a lot of time and effort to straighten a blackthorn proper.
Yep.
And you have to have the right tools as well. It makes it so much easier, because a blackthorn should be straightened in one go. You shouldn't have to be going back, going and coming from it. You should be just straightened in one go and left, and then you can work on it and have your straight stick.
Yeah, it makes sense. That actually leads us. I'll go to the chat. Jim asked a question on straightening. Is there a difference in stick characteristics with dry heat versus steam straightening?
Yeah, good question. Dry heat is great because you can work away with the stick straight away. Steam, you have to let it dry out 2 to 3 weeks again. Let that moisture come back out. It only takes 2 or 3 weeks for the moisture to come back out.
Yeah.
And you can work away then again. But steaming a stick is better. It straightens it better, especially if it's a stick that's 1.25 inches, 1.5 in diameter. It takes a bit of straightening.
Yeah.
I've seen silly concoctions how to straighten sticks with car jacks and silly boxes. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Guarantee you that doesn't work. You get you get your funnel and you steam it, and you get your proper straightening wheels or brackets. Perfect job.
I don't remember where I saw it. It might have been a Facebook post from you, Declan, but I think you do a practice that kind of gets you ahead of the curve, that when you first cut it, you wrap them in bundles, and I think that helps kind of straighten them or keep them straight during the kind of seasoning process. Is that right?
Correct. That's another aspect of seasoning that people overlook. They stand them up in sheds on their own individually, or they just throw them. They throw them, yes, or they just throw them in the corner, and you see this big heap of sticks. That's no way to season sticks. As well as that, you can't control what you have. The best way is to tie them in bundles as tight as you can in together. It'll keep their natural straightness.
Yeah.
And then when they're seasoned, you'll have to tweak them here and there, just to get them as straight as you can, or as you want them.
Yeah. And then there was another question really around, I guess, kind of inventory is maybe the right way to put it. Do you make them to order or carry a stock of them and cut them to size? So I'll make a statement, but I'll ask the question maybe a different way. So clearly you're harvesting a batch every year, and then they got a season, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, depending on size. And then they kind of become available, and then you're getting people asking you, hey, I want one that's 36 inches, or I want a cudgel, or I want one that's 50 inches. So I think you're kind of making most of them to order. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, 90% would be to order. I cut them as long as possible, because that way I can make a staff, or I can make a short one.
Yeah.
Shillelaghs, there's no, it's not written in stone anywhere what length of Shillelagh should be.
Yep.
So the Shillelagh can be that size, or it can be 5 foot tall.
Yep.
So there's nothing written in stone saying a Shillelagh should be that length. It should be made of this type of timber or this or that. That's all rubbish.
Yep.
You know, it's what the customer wants in a certain style.
Yeah, right. With the finish type, gloss.
Yes.
Matte, right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Or personalized. Most people look for something personalized on it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I always like to do is something on the shaft, right? So either, people ask me to get their name or a phrase, yes, or, I happen to put my branding on it if they don't ask me for something in particular. And I've done all different ones over the years, and I happen to like that. I mean, it's a nice.
It looks well. I've seen it. Yeah, it looks very well.
Yep. All right, so it looks like we're at down to about 5 minutes. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So if anybody does have additional questions, you can throw it in real quick, or you're welcome to email me after the fact. Again, like I said, I'll submit those to Declan and see if we can answer any additional questions. So, with that, Declan, I want to say a very sincere thank you. I really appreciate the time. I've thoroughly enjoyed the discussion and learning an awful lot on, I'm probably just scratching the surface on understanding of all this, but sincerely appreciate the time and the effort to come on and answer and go through some of these questions today.
Thanks, Brent. It was nice coming on and talking about the whole Blackthorn Shillelagh crafting, but it's my first time ever doing anything like this, so I can't say, I won't say I wasn't nervous, which I was. So a lot of things don't come naturally when you're a little nervous. So
yeah.
I've left a lot out, but I was expecting to do that because I'm a nervous type anyway. So
you did a great job. So don't sell yourself short. So
hope I did okay.
No, you did great. I do sincerely appreciate it. I mean that. So just real quick, I'll wrap up. I mentioned it early. I've got a 3-day event that I'm hosting in Ireland. It's in the town of Shillelagh. So it's our system. It's our take on Irish stick fighting, again, with a modern day twist. So there's information there if people are interested. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a limited size group. I've got myself and 3 of my senior instructors, so there'll be a lot of one-on-one instruction. We'll have a chance to not only train and study and have fun, but go to the local pub and just really enjoy Ireland. I'm actually planning on staying for probably upwards of another 10 days to just be a tourist in Ireland again. Thoroughly have enjoyed every trip that I've taken and looking forward to this one coming up.
Beautiful part of Ireland.
Absolutely.
Wicklow's fabulous.
Yep. Very much looking forward to. We rented out a whole, I call it an Irish estate, but again, it's a facility that we're going to stay and train on site, which makes it even much more fun. So everybody have a great day. Thank you very much, and we will talk to everybody soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent.